I love you. Thank you so very much for tuning back in to another important episode of our lovely show here today. I almost stole the title again. I was like, damn it, why do I keep doing that? No, I didn't. I didn't steal it. It's still yours. Hello, everybody. I am the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leon. And this is Green and Faceless on the Couch. That's the title. So we get it out of the way so that there's no more temptation.
Oh, thank you.
This is a podcast about movies and TV. And we're here. We're doing a threesome, particularly to celebrate Women's History Month. And,
yes, this is for all the ladies out there.
This is for half of us out there.
Probably more than half.
What?
Maybe not. I was going to say maybe more. Maybe it's more than half.
We don't.
And I was like, well, maybe it's not.
I don't know.
Who knows?
And the basis of sex, I think it was 51% were women. And that's honestly probably because of war and violence.
It's true. Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like, especially in my life, I know a lot of individuals, and in my own personal life, where the family was husband, wife, 2 male children. There's a lot of that dynamic in my life. I'm just like, man, why is that so common? Like, everywhere I look.
It could just be your genes.
I hope not.
Just more male chromosomes.
If I ever have kids, I really hope I don't. I want 2 daughters. That's my goal. I want 2 daughters. I don't want sons. Oh man. I can't raise a male.
Well, I mean, just raise them to not think like an asshole.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's really hard because, like, you know, even though I personally identify as non-binary, I still have that male assholishness. So I'm like, I would be worried that would pass on to my offspring.
Yes.
And I'd be like, I feel like I can handle that in women. And men, though, I'm just like, oh no, what do I do? How do I fix this? How do I correct this?
I feel like, I mean, it's just kind of just ingrained. Like, there's times where I find that I am doing shitty things, and I'm like, you know, I would not do this, would not say this, if I had the other perspective. And,
right.
You know,
I feel like, I've gotten better at, like, stepping back and being, like, looking at my reaction, being like, am I doing this out of, like, stubbornness? Or, like, is this coming out of, like, is this, like, a really stupid reaction? And most of the times it is, so I'm getting better at it. And now that the seasons are finally changing and I was able to sit outside on a beautiful day, I think it's going to get much easier for the next few months.
Yes. Yeah. It was very nice today. It was cold again. It's been cold the last couple days.
Yeah. But it was a weird cold.
It was it was sunny, very sunny. So it felt nice.
Yeah. It's a comfortable cold.
Mm-hmm. No wind.
Had a blanket on. Yeah. Blanket on, sitting outside reading a book. Dog whining, but she was out there still enjoying it. She whines everywhere she goes.
So, I'm going to say up front that the struggle has been very real. And
yes, just
like a lot of things, there was a period that seemed that was very cool on the subject of equality between the genders. There was a period that seemed that it had cooled off when we were growing up, and then particularly here recently, there's been a whole lot of things that have happened, like the administration that we had in the Oval Office. There was a lot of concerns with that, rightfully so, I believe. And also
the Me Too movement.
The Me Too movement. A lot of important things. Even this, I believe it was just very recently that it became a whole month that we recognize the struggle of that is what we call women's history.
And I gotta say too, like we've mentioned many times personally how our own education being raised was pretty poor in our opinions in regards, and especially in regards to the fight for women's suffrage, because like I feel like
we just breezed over it.
Yeah, it's the best way to just transition into the first movie too. But like, I just want to say before I let you talk Suffragette is that I feel like that movement, that time period at least in regards to women's equality and women getting the right to vote and everything, that was taught in my school as just a victory.
Yeah,
as it was just kind of like, and in this year they voted to give the women the right to vote. It was
just a timeline. Yeah,
and it was there was no women mentioned. I don't remember that were like very important at the time. Emily Davison mentioned in this movie. I didn't know who she was. Like, there's a lot of people that I think are like huge in this time period that I just didn't hear about because they weren't taught to me. Yeah, and I think that's a damn shame.
It is. It definitely is a damn shame. And I feel like I learned a lot from watching this movie, which I believe is really the takeaway that Sarah Gavron would have us take. However, putting this foot forward, it is historical fiction. The main character, Maud Watts, played by Carey Mulligan. There's a lot of M names.
And then there's Maud.
Yeah, there's Maud.
I can only think of that whenever I hear this name. Damn you, Family Guy.
So Maud Watts is a launderer. I doubt that's what they called her. I don't remember what the title was. But anyways, both her and her husband, Sonny, played by Ben Whishaw, they work in this place. He does deliveries and she works with the chemicals and washes the clothes. And it's hard work. It's terrible for your health. And all the women who work there die young. Pretty much.
And you see that too. Sarah Gavron does a pretty good job. And it's written by Abby Morgan. And like with the script and with Sarah's directing, you do get a good glimpse at the harsh qualities that they're working and living in, because a lot of them live where they work. Right.
Like, so it was so... I feel like they didn't necessarily drive this particular point in, but I don't feel like they had to. Like, it was so ingrained that it was a woman's job to wash the clothes that they didn't think that they were asking them to do what was A, the harder job, and B, the less safe job, and valuing their men employees over them. But at this time period too, women were considered property, really. Like, the husband owned his wife and his daughters until they were married.
Yeah, and they had a scene early on where at the end of the workday when Maud and what's the husband's name?
Sonny. And they have a son named George.
Thank you. Yeah, when all of them are gathered at the dinner table, they have a scene where Maud has to hand Sonny all of her gold or her coin. Mm-hmm. And he like puts it all together in one area for him. You get a good idea of what the life is like, right? Pretty early on, it's really well set up. How weird, like it seems weird, but that was the time period. It seems very just horribly
This is wrong. Oh, I'm trying to remember what the date was, but I believe it was 1870s, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's very. It felt like a very, very much like Charles Dickens too. So
let me see. I just want to get what the date was, because
1912.
Thank you.
Was when it started, I guess, and it goes all the way through.
Yes, I recall the titles now. I don't think it made it
1920s. I think.
Yeah, I think maybe it falls to the 1920s. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't pass
when it starts in America,
because this all takes place in England. I think, right?
Yes,
this is the UK.
I believe it's all London, even.
Yeah, and I just read here though, UK women were given a right to vote in 1918. I think that's around the time period that this film ends, and then they just have placards afterwards.
Yes, and they it is. I will say up front, I'm not a huge fan of the ending. It kind of just ends as if it were a documentary or a biopic about somebody who wasn't dead yet.
Right.
which is strange because Maud is very clearly based off of another Maud that really existed.
Yeah, this movie did a lot of that because there's another main character played by Helena Bonham Carter. Her name is Edith, and she's based off of another character. Like I say based off of another character. She's based off a real person.
Right.
I think the real person's name was Edith New. And this is, I don't remember what Edith and this is, her last name is, but they did that a lot where they just kind of based them off of historical people.
Right. And Maud is based off of Maud Joachim. And it might just be that they wanted to put these people in the same room together and they never were. It could be something like that. Fair, yeah.
It's just weird because they have Emily Davison, who I mentioned earlier, who is kind of the climactic into this movie. It's like it's a a tragic moment, but it's a martyr kind of moment where it's like this is what the movement needed to be brought to the public eye. That was a real person. Emily Davison was real. After this movie, I immediately looked her up and like read about her life and everything. And it's weird because it's like I don't know why they would focus on these fictional characters when they had a real person here that they could have just told that story. Yeah, I feel like it was a very similar-ish tale that they could have. Yeah, that would have been cool. Some history, but
maybe just to focus on that real person.
I mean, also because that one does have an ending. That story has an end.
Yeah, and then they could have had like a little bit of falling action where people talked in politics and whatnot. But I think that getting Maud's reaction, though, and Carey Mulligan is really great in that particular scene, I think. Yeah. I think that was still a really big moment for this film. I think it still works for this film. But, yeah, I still don't like the ending so much. So let's go. I think we need to step back and do more synopsizing, because you mentioned that women got the vote in UK in 18. But, well, I should say 1918 because we've lived through an 18. Shit. So, Maud really at first is just curious about the suffragette movement. She doesn't really know what she thinks about it. She does know that it's not equal, and maybe it should be equal. But she goes to a couple of rallies to hear some things, and eventually she gets in trouble. And Sonny gets mad, and then she tries to stop doing it. And then she can't hold back in a certain situation, one dealing with her employer, and she cannot hold back what she has to say to him. And I think I'm remembering a much later part where she basically abducts that child. But that's much later in the movie, because what I was trying to come up with is that she gets in trouble again, actually gets arrested, and the employer kicks her out. And I believe he kicks out Sonny too. And Sonny then in turn kicks Maud out of the house and eventually gives George to another family to take care of.
Yeah, it's really upsetting when you see that scene.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, I mean, it's so weird because, like, I mean, you don't get a good impression at all from George, or from Sonny, I mean.
Right.
He's easily a very detestable person. But at the same time...
At first, you feel like, oh, he's not such a bad guy.
He's just warped by the times.
Right, exactly. And then you get to the point where, he doesn't ever physically punish her, I don't think. No, but the way that he shuts her out is pretty brutal.
Yeah, and you start to hate him a lot, and but him just giving his son up for adoption, just it came out of left field almost, like, but not in a way that felt unbelievable. Like it was still very much like, oh my god, like I could totally see this happening, but like you just don't expect it, and it's a very upsetting scene, especially since you see it from Maud's perspective. It's a rough one.
So Maud joins up for realies. She is all in at this point, And they start doing some pretty bad vandalism, just trying to get attention because their leader's opinion, played by Meryl Streep. And under Meryl Streep is Helena Bonham Carter as well as Edith Ellen. What was fucking Meryl Streep's character's name?
Emmeline. I don't remember her last name, but...
Thank you. Emmeline Pankhurst. And the police just refer to her as Mrs. Pankhurst. Anyhow, she has told them, we have to do violent things because men only understand war. We have tried peacefully for a long time. And yeah, I'm not sure, how much I agree with that notion, but it worked. And I'm sure that the men back then were a lot more headstrong than some of us are now.
Right.
Because a lot has changed since then.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely piqued the interest of enough people, including like the main... I don't remember what he was, if he was a police chief or what.
I think he was just a detective.
Yeah, Brendan Gleeson's character. I just wrote down Arthur. I don't know what his role, his rank and title are.
He is definitely placed as like the main antagonist. Inspector Arthur Steed.
And like even with a tiny bit of anti-hero, because there's moments where he's like, I don't want to do this. It's just I uphold the law and this is the law.
But that's the excuse of any fucking cop ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just it's entertaining, and it makes for another obstacle for Carey Mulligan for Maude to have to live through.
Right.
But like just the prison scenes alone were some of like the very more challenging scenes that it's like I did not know that, I mean I'm sure I knew, but like I wasn't very aware that a lot of this like stuff happened. For it's like I knew it was bad, like, but I did not know it was
this is fictional, but this shit definitely happened. Like so going into this, just know that these characters probably didn't do these specific things, but women in this movement went through these specific things.
Yeah. I think Emily Davison specifically, they talk a lot about her.
Well, actually, I think the first time they mention her is in the prison. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so, because they're talking about what she's been through, the fasting strikes that she's gone on, or the hunger strikes, I guess, that she's gone on. And like the torture methods that they've done to her, like specifically they would force feed the women who went on hunger strikes, and it's just like it's just awful to realize, and it's at the same time it's awful to realize that this isn't being taught. That I had to learn this from a movie, right? That and I'm happy this movie happened, even though I don't think of this film as being overly like cinematic. It's not like a great grand movie, right? But the message behind it, the story that I learned is like super important, and I'm happy that it happened.
Yeah, so I think it is very important, and I agree with you, for everyone to realize how hard the fight really was to get to where we were, and like getting the vote wasn't the end of the fight. And like you said, we teach it in our education system as this great victory, which, not to diminish it, it was, but there was a lot more fight after that, which I think could segue us into our next movie, but we should do some closing statements.
Yeah, you're right. I still give it 3 stars. I will say that, great performances, and it's very, like, I definitely recommend going to check it out if you haven't seen it, because I hadn't even heard of this film until you mentioned it to me, I think, because we were talking about doing a Women's History Month episode, and you mentioned this, and I was like, oh, I've never even heard of it. Looked it up, saw Carey Mulligan from We Talked to Her in Promising Young Woman, and we loved her performance in that. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to give it a full face. I think that I would put it on a list of important watches, especially if you're curious about this particular era and the fight against the patriarchy.
Fight against Big Brother.
The fight against the man, literally. So I feel like it does have kind of a weekend ending, but I think maybe that's kind of a trend that people go for with these kind of movies, a high moral impact movie. They kind of want people to be like, oh, well, at the very least, it makes them think
I gotta go research
about, the movie. Like, they're like, oh, that's kind of a weird ending. That kind of does stick with you, at least for a couple of weeks. But I don't know. Maybe a big punchy ending would still make me remember it more. I don't know. That's what
I'm saying. Like, I think the one correcting note would be to just base it off of Emily Davison.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'm sure. Like, I like the story. I like the story they built around Maud. I like this character, and I like the fight that she put up, and especially all the people that she met. I loved Helena Bonham Carter's Edith, but Emily Davison just has that impactful ending.
Yeah,
that I feel like you could have just easily based it off of her story, and it would have been more impactful all around.
I do have one other thing that it was a slight disappointment, was that I thought I really like Meryl Streep, and I thought she was going to be a bigger part, and she basically just has a monologue. That's it. All right, well, we'll move on then. Should we do a soda pop break?
It's either that or a promotion. Which one do you think? Which one should we throw up first?
Let's do the promotion then.
Yeah. If you enjoy, you know what? If you no, I'm not gonna do that. I was gonna say if you support women's history, support these two. Support these two men financially. No, that's awful. If you like this show, though, you could head on down to patreon.com/green and faceless. You can check out our tiers there, subscription tiers. With some of them come with merchandise, but at the same time, talk to us. We might be able to get you some merchandise. We don't know, but if there's interest, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, you guys want t-shirts? Well, I mean, if you are a loyal Patreon promoter for 3 months at a certain tier, you will get a t-shirt. But you could also just let us know, like my friend just said, and we will make that maybe happen. Maybe,
dude, for like $40, I'll buy a white
takeaway. You'll color it in yourself. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, $40. I'll grab a white tee and I'll just like draw it on there. It's worth more that way.
How about this?
Original art.
If we get 20 people to contact us, and I think that we're going to delete this too, because I have to think about the actual financial burden this might put on us. So if we get 20 people to say they want a t-shirt, 100. Okay, if we get 100 people to say they want a t-shirt, then we will buy a stock of 200 and sell them the t-shirts. And that way we'll have some. So let us know. You can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram account. I've been meaning to set up a fan website, and I'll do that by next episode. I just said it. It's a promise. Do it by next episode.
Nice. Yeah, you're going to hear it, and you're going to go, and you're going to make it. You're going to do it.
That's right.
It's the way it is.
Soda pop time.
I like it. All right, let's do it.
Are we back?
I think we are.
Yeah.
Yes. On the basis of sex.
On the basis of sex.
Yes, on the basis of sex. I'm only saying it a lot because the movie liked to say it a lot. Like a hell of a lot.
And they even make a joke of it. And maybe that was just a joke of the script writer, Daniel Stapleman.
I stopped. Yeah, Daniel Stapleman. He's actually the real life nephew of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and that is what the On the Basis of Sex is. On the Basis of Sex is a biographical legal drama based on the early life of Ruth Bader. It's a small section, like just a couple of years. Let me look at.
Well, it covers her her law education through
1956.
I believe the 70s, at some point in the 70s.
Yeah, I think 1956 to like early 70s-ish. it's a good portion of her life, but there's a lot more there. There's a lot more legacy to be told, but that's not a detriment to the movie. I'm not honestly gonna attack this movie for focusing on a small section and not her whole life.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah,
but in these moments in this year, as you said, it covers her education. Her husband, who is played by she is also played by Felicity Jones. Yes. Amazingly, she does a great job. And her husband,
Martin Ginsburg.
What is her husband's name? Martin. Thank you. Yeah, Martin is played by Armie Hammer. I mentioned in a previous episode when discussing the Death on the Nile, the Hercule Poirot movie, that there is some controversy around Armie Hammer. Again, I'm not going to go into that controversy. You can look it up yourself.
It's something.
I will say that did make this movie. It made this movie feel a little weird. I will be honest.
Especially how sweet and warm he is. And there's a lot of jokes that are coming to mind.
I texted you. There's a PG scene leading up to a we're gonna have sex moment between Martin and Ruth. And again, it's written by Ruth's nephew, so it was just a little weird.
But maybe it could have been a Mimi ad. Mimi leader is leader or letter.
I would say letter. You're right on both parts.
Apologize. I do enjoy your movie though.
Sorry, Mimi. And honestly, I don't remember much of. I remember that her husband Martin, I believe he's diagnosed with testicular cancer, right? Yeah, and he's not able to go to his classes for a good portion, and she starts going to his classes on top of her own classes, on top of also working. I think wasn't she? Didn't she have a job? No,
I don't think.
Maybe not.
Maybe she did.
Well, they had a kid.
Well, they had a kid.
Yeah. They had a family.
Which
so on top of being a mother.
Lucky. Wait, they had more kids afterwards, didn't they? After his cancer.
Yeah, I think they had another. I think they had two.
Which that's kind of amazing that he kept that ability, I would say, with testicular cancer.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest though up front. The movie becomes a legal drama. After her education, after she already accomplishes
there's a lot of pushback from the dean and her professors, but she perseveres.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest though, it being a legal drama kind of lost me. I'm not too grasped by those. That 12 Angry Men is probably the only one that's really kept me enraptured. And that's because that's just a really well done fucking movie.
That's one I haven't seen. But I kind of like legal dramas.
Legal dramas are good, and this one's not at all.
Runaway Jury, I like that one. But it's been a long time since I watched it. That one is a John Cusack movie. So
okay.
Who knows?
I'll judge it later, I guess. It'll probably show up on our...
Sorry, John.
You've
given a lot. and because there's so much, it's not on the same pillar as Nick Cage's career.
No way. No.
But it's something there's a kinship there.
It's like meth versus coke. Sorry, guys. But what I was saying though is with this one being a legal drama, it just kind of I struggled to pay attention to a lot of it,
right.
I feel bad because I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I love her life story. I love her life accomplishments, and I love what she did.
Be missed.
Yeah, and we miss her, and I love what she did on the Supreme Court. She was one of the best. She was one of the reasons I paid attention to the Supreme Court. Right. I have vague interest in legal drama in any way. My brother loved the TV show Jag, which was legal drama for the Army. And yeah.
I think it's the Navy, but yeah,
maybe. Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't for the Army. I knew that specifically. It's just I meant military or the military in general.
Gotcha. Sure.
And I remember Law and Order being on. I don't remember my parents being interested in it too much, but I remember it being on occasionally. Yeah, boom, boom.
Yeah. Speaking of, Sam Waterston is in this.
That is
plays
true.
Aaron Griswold, the dean, and then later fights in the court case against her.
Yeah.
That's the big part of this movie, is the court case.
Yeah, and I did enjoy that. She has some really good moments. Felicity Jones as Ruth Bader has some really good and powerful, I guess, monologues. You know, it's her argument.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's her argument in the case. So I guess it still qualifies as a monologue. But it is one of the more fascinating scenes.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, that's always the climax of a legal drama, is the courtroom, them winning over the case or giving their last ditch effort and still losing.
Right. And I know I'm going to get the case wrong, so I need to get a lot of help from you on this one. I know it was about a guy who was the caretaker for his mom. And
yes, Charles Moritz, played by Chris Mulkey.
Thank you. And he's was he denied a tax?
He was denied a tax break of like $200 some,
which is
because
good for
he used the money to hire a caregiver for his mom so that he could still work. So he filed the tax credit because it was there, a caregiver tax credit. That seemed to make sense to him.
Right.
So he filed it, and then they said that it was frauded, that it wasn't for him, that it was for... There was very specific laws
on the basis of sex,
which kind of men could apply for it. On the basis of sex.
On the basis of sex. Yes.
So, go ahead. Continue. Regale me.
But that's the thing, is like, I don't know where else to continue, because like, while this is a good movie, while I still was fascinated by, especially by the beginning, what fascinated me the most was the front half of this movie, when it was about her struggle through her education to become where she was. And then the second half is like her fight to find the lawyer in her, you know, that to find her voice as a lawyer.
Right. Because she actually couldn't get a job out of school. So until somebody offered her a professorship, which she was like, she graduated top of her class. So she should have been able to get a job.
Exactly.
But
bullshit.
it was sexism. In fact, there was one person who was actually rather impressed with her, but was like, listen, you're too attractive. The wives will get jealous.
Yeah.
So it definitely was just bullshit, and she knew it was, but she needed a job. She wasn't just going to do nothing with her degree, so she taught other people. And like we said, she graduated in the 50s. So she then becomes a professor, and then when the new feminist movement comes, it's the 70s, and there's so many more women in her class that she's teaching how the law is against them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool part of the movie, too.
Yeah, I did like that.
Showing that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, back to the court case, since that was what you asked me about. They take the case to appeals court in front of 3 judges, no more jury, and the 3 judges will decide whether or not to appeal it or deny it. And then they could take it to Supreme Court, I believe. Professor Brown, played by Stephen Root, and Griswold, Sam Waterston's character, they bring on this other guy. I think his name is Jim Bozarth. He's played by Jack Raynor. Yes. He has the idea to show them how many laws are determined on the basis of sex. And there's like over 200 and some.
Yeah.
And he's like, we have to make it clear that this would be opening up a can of worms and would be a nightmare in the courts for years and years.
Yep.
And Ruth knows that. Ruth, like, she wants to use this case to then take down all those laws.
Hell yeah.
Because they should be considered unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And so she has to argue with these judges why it's not constitutional to make law on the basis of sex.
And she also has an obstacle against her, and that there is precedent for the court not to accept the appeal, not to go her way. There are 2 cases prior to this where the court has said no. I don't know what she is. She's not the defense, but no, you are wrong.
Precedent shows that discrimination based on sex or gender, as they use in the courtroom so they don't have to say sex over and over again.
Right.
Which I wonder if that was like true or if they were worried about the rating.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's interesting.
But I could see it being true because like they want people to listen. And if you keep on saying sex over and over again, they are very easily scandalized people at the time.
Right.
I would say.
He said the S word.
Even with it being the 70s.
Right.
Everybody still seemed so shocked whenever you watch like a movie from back then. So anyhow, I don't know. I mean, it's history, so I don't feel bad about giving away the ending. They do win this case.
Yeah.
And it is a very important case, not just for Ruth's career, but for
the country.
Women in general, yes, the country. It changed everything, really. Yeah. Made it the law a lot better for everybody, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a placard at the end that, like, after that, the notorious RBG, as she became lovingly known as, she did exactly as the defense was arguing. Was like, if you do this, it'll open a can of worms. Well, you know, you can call it a can of worms, but it definitely opened it, and she immediately started using this to take down other laws, and it's, you know, it's fucking amazing. And like, and you know, as you said, because we were talking about this before we recorded, because I was expecting it to be a much bigger saga legacy movie because she has a huge legacy. And you know,
she does.
You can have a lot of the cases where she was taking down those laws be a montage scene, and it's a montage scene that I probably would be totally okay with because it's, you know, it's the same action happening over and over again, but you see the weight of it, you see the changes that are happening. But at the time of this movie being made, she was, you know, fortunately still with us. Sadly, unfortunately, she has passed. So now they can do that. Now they can make a gigantic biopic.
They could make an epic movie of her, and I think that would be great. I don't think they will do it soon.
No, because this movie does.
I feel like a movie about her coming up recently would be good for us because we're definitely in a state of flux, to use a sci-fi term. Yeah, things are really up in the air. We're very, you know, we're all very divisive. I don't need to tell us that. Yeah, and I think she was a factor that most people could rally around. You know, like no matter what your beliefs in, you see her fight and her legacy, and like you have to give it respect. Like and I feel like perhaps you know, our country took her for granted while she was with us. Yeah. So I feel like a movie honoring her life would be great. And, you know, you can't just make them a saint either. You got to use the bad things too. You got to throw it in there. And that was one of my, like I mentioned, again, we had talked about this before. Like, even though I do enjoy this movie, even though I do greatly respect the story and the legacy it's putting forth, at the same time, it's not like an amazing biopic. It's kind of you know, very run-of-the-mill. It does a good job, and the acting is great. Yeah. I do enjoy the acting. Felicity Jones was beautiful in this movie. Yeah, she was great. Yeah. Amazing. But it just doesn't carry that biopic weight, you know, and I was telling you, crap, what was I just about to say? You actually had mentioned that you felt like she was a bit put on a saintly pedestal in this. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Is like it doesn't show any. I mean, she's definitely fucking hero.
Oh yeah,
we're not going to deny that.
No,
definitely.
And she almost certainly is a saint too. Like she has a lot of good about her.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there are some negatives they could have shown. I just don't, there isn't any presented. And this, she really is presented as this, like, just, again, she is a fucking amazing woman. So maybe there was no negatives, and that's totally fine. But it does feel a little saint-like in that she is absolutely perfect. But that's not really a negative.
I mean,
again.
like, even, like, it shouldn't be.
No.
But, like, we as humans, I feel like, deserve to see humans on screen.
And we relate.
And I don't think she is inhuman, because she suffers. She does suffer a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And, maybe even this film might be saying that when she took that professorship at that moment, she was giving up a little bit.
Right.
So there is this conflict, or these, like you said earlier, obstacles to overcome. And I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a full face. I really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I think it has a much stronger ending than the other movie. And I kind of really like how it's focused in. But I would still love an epic movie all about RBJ.
Yeah. Amen to that.
RBG.
Yeah, I give it the same rating as Suffragette. I give it 3 stars. I feel bad when I feel like I'm being negative to it, because it is a great movie. It is very enjoyable. It's very powerful. Easily recommend again, because she is a very powerful figure, and it's good to learn about her. It's good to know about her education and what she had to get through to be where she's a
current character in our history, really.
Yeah.
I mean, even though she's passed, her impact is still rippling out.
Right. And it's just, I feel bad though, because it's like, even though the story is powerful and great, it doesn't mean the movie has to be powerful and great. And so, like, the fact that the movie is not, a beautiful epic biopic like I would imagine, that doesn't matter. It's still a worthwhile watch. So definitely watch it.
Well, should we move on to our final film? Is something that has really, it's a very recent movie, just dropped on PlayStation, fucking Disney Plus.
PlayStation Plus.
And this is the second time I've watched it, because we watched it pretty much right when it came out. I really hadn't heard anything about it before it came out, but I saw that it came out and I was like, oh, it's a new Pixar movie. Why not? And me and Sarah watched it, and we really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I feel like, I hope there's a lot more movies that come like this.
Right.
It's a very positive movie.
Pixar's 25th film.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's their first solely directed by a woman.
Wow. Yeah. Domi Shi?
Yeah, I think so. Domi Shi.
Apologize. Domi Shi. It's great. Yeah, it's a great movie. You did a great job.
Yeah, she wrote
you don't need me to pat you on the back, but I wish I could, because it's great.
Yeah. She wrote it with Julia Cho also. And I don't know much about Julia Cho's writing filmography or bibliography or whatever, but this was Domi Shi's directorial debut. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, fucking fantastic. It feels like they let you do what you wanted to do. Obviously, there's so much animators involved that I'm sure that the collaboration on what the final product looks like is a lot more. It's a lot more shared.
Yeah, and far more involved than I could wrap my head around. And I still don't.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I didn't know. Just like you, I hadn't heard anything about it. It had dropped. Mm-hmm. I still didn't hear about it because I had been on Disney Plus in a while. And I didn't hear about it until just maybe a week or so after it had been released, when the moms that I work with came to work and started talking about it. And I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I haven't heard about this movie. And they were talking.
It has a lot of controversy on it.
Yeah, controversy that I wouldn't have known anything about it if I had just watched it. If I had just watched it, I would have been like, wow, that was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. I wouldn't have known a single damn thing was controversial about it.
The body positivity part of it, they're upset about. They're upset about the fact that it represents other religion other than Christianity.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys.
And
there's one pastor who said there's demonic depictions in this movie. And, oh my God, guys. Come on. It's a fiction film.
I saw one complaint about the fact that there's like, they're showing tampons in a kid's film. Like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, because people should know about their body.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I was like,
you know I'm not the only person screaming that. And I'm definitely, I guess you don't need this guy screaming that for you, ladies, but I just feel like it's so obvious, and I know you think that as well, a good portion of you out there, but people should just know how their body works. And then it would be such a less of a big deal. So much less of a big deal.
It's like people who attack sex education in schools, it's like, why are you gonna have this, like, are you gonna have these conversations with your kids? Like, no, you're not. It's awkward. Let a professional do it. They always say, like, okay, like my parents did. On at least I think both of them on separate occasions talked to me. A twofer.
My dad's was a lot more informational, not to say anything against what my mom had to say about it, but my dad was like, it was like a lecture. You know, that's how he paced it out. And he said, all right, so how did you think that went? And I was like, I was informational. I mean, thanks. Yeah. I mean, they did teach a lot of this in school already. And he's like, really?
Yep. That's how mine went.
And I couldn't tell if he was upset about that or not.
My parents were just like, all right, well, I guess it's time for us to have the talk. And like they started and I was like, yep, taught that in school. And they're like, oh, what about? And I'm like, yep, taught that too. And it's like, well, you've already had the talk then. We're good. I was like, awesome.
Yeah, and like he didn't teach me how to put a condom on either, but I also don't think they expected me to be sexually active, which I wasn't at the time. Anyhow, after the lecture, he said, all right, yeah, at least I thought it was better than how my dad did it. He literally handed me a pamphlet and said, good luck.
Might have preferred that method, Dad.
Anyhow, let's talk about why we wanted to do this for Women's History. Well, I think we've already actually talked about it. Why am I saying that? I wanted to bring us back in because we had a technical blip. But
right,
we wanted to talk about this movie because it's definitely very positive towards the process of growing up in puberty and stuff like that. It's definitely the whole thing, one big metaphor for that. It's also a great representation of this Chinese family. We have the main character, Mei Lin Lee, played by Rosalie Chang. And she does a great job. I enjoy her. She's very, she when she's at school, she's very loud and proud of it and takes charge, super badass at grades and happy for it. But when she's home, she very much is a very obedient child under her mother, Ming.
Helicopter parent.
Played by Sandra Oh. Everybody loves Sandra Oh. And her dad, I believe, is Gene, played by Orion Lee.
He's lovely.
And they run a temple together. It is from Ming's family, and they worship their ancestors there, particularly. I just watched the movie earlier today. I forget what the ancestor's name was, but there's a legend in their family that she loved red pandas and that she took care of red pandas. And it goes further than that. Ming learns when one day she wakes up and is a giant red panda. So this ancestor, during a time of war, had asked for the spirit's help and asked them to turn her into a red panda, and as well as her daughters. So now, whenever a daughter in this family comes of age, they get their red panda, which when it happens, Ming thinks it is her period that comes.
Well, her daughter's like hiding in the bathtub, just like screaming. She's just like, "Oh no, I'm a red monster, Mom. Leave me alone!" Like,
yes, and I just like imagined her pulling that curtain back, and like what Ming was thinking in her head, like what she was going to see and stuff, and then she looks away. She decides she can't look. And there's this whole bit where Mei Ling goes to school and everything, and when this happens to them, they're the very typical dark hair, it turns red, and I really like what they do with the hair. Actually. And then also Pixar can just fucking animate hair like fucking crazy.
Yeah, actually, I do want to speak about the animation too, because again, I hadn't known anything about this. I didn't know anything at all coming in. I didn't watch a trailer. I just heard slight bits from what the mothers were saying. They were keeping it very spoiler free for me because I'd asked them to, but they were just telling me, great movie. Please, please go watch this. It's really good. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely, I'll definitely check it out because it sounded interesting. Nice. But then I saw the animation for it, and it has a very Wallace and Gromity look, and it was almost it almost turned me off immediately because I just saw the cover photo of May, and I was like, oh no, I can stand this kind of animation, but it's weird for me. Immediately, like 5 minutes in, I did not care. The animation was beautiful. Yeah. It was really well done.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Once I saw just like in a still, it definitely has like a Wallace and Gromit, like big mouth, big curved, like Charlie Brown kind of grin mouth, and like it's off-putting. But when you see the action and everything, so beautifully done. Like, great job to all the animators, because there's so many like small details from like her actions that are just very endearing, and it's so wonderful.
I agree. They definitely add a lot of I don't know if I want to say stereotypical, but traditional animation for cuteness. From like they borrow that from anime a lot in this particular movie. Also, this is based in 2002, so it is a period piece. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's women's history, but I would say that it is an important movie for young women to watch. And mothers, too.
And it's also based in Toronto, Ontario, the birthplace of Rush.
Yes, it is.
Just had to toss that in there.
So, Maylin she goes by May. Well, I'll shorten it to May. She has 3 best friends named Miriam, played by Ava Morris, Abby, played by Hyen Park, and Priya, played by Maitreyi Ramakrishnan.
Great job. Nice.
Yeah, I think I actually might have said the last name right. Probably not the first name.
Yeah. That's how I was going to pronounce it.
I love her friends.
Oh my God, yeah. Her friend
each
group
one
is
of
the
them
best.
remind me of a friend that I have or had growing up. And I just love how excited Abby is about everything. It's fucking amazing. And how not excited about anything Priya is.
Yeah, she's great. That's the beauty. Like, as you said, I can pinpoint friends into all 3 of those groups. They did a great job at being their own thing, but at the same time being relatable to pretty much a lot of people.
Yes.
God, it's beautiful.
They're great. I love them. And I just love the sisterhood that they have with May. They fucking love boy bands and their Tamagotchis.
The Tamagotchis. Oh, I love the Tamagotchis.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I do remember having Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
These characters, I did the math because they're 13 in 2002.
Don't do it.
They're really only like
Don't.
3 years older than us.
Nope. Nope. Not thinking about it. Not thinking about
4 years older than
Stop
you.
it. Why? I don't want to think about how I'm old. Don't do this to me.
So basically, now the movies are about our childhood.
No.
That's what I'm trying to get at. So they love this boy band called Four Town. There's 5 of them. Which is a good joke in the movie too. And they want to go to the concert real bad, but the parents aren't going to allow them. They decide
especially not the giant red panda.
Especially not Ming and Jin. Well, actually, Jin doesn't have anything to say about it. He doesn't have a lot to say about a lot of things.
He has one
until the end.
Yeah, one very beautiful scene at the end where he has got some great stuff.
So good. So, yeah, they use the panda to raise money because all the kids think it's the cutest fucking thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's like, that's the beauty of Pixar is I can't remember, I think it was Pixar that was just like the way they do it is like they write a story beat and it's like, all right, what is the most unlikely thing to happen? That's the next story beat. And like them using the panda, you know, I was not expecting that to be what happened next.
No.
I was like, okay, we're going to have to hide this. We're going to have to figure out how to hide this. No, we're going to use this fucking ever.
So the whole movie, kind of to wrap it up, because I want to save a lot of it for later. There is a ritual that they, you know, I won't bring that up, that they use, the family does, to seal in the spirit. And they do use, so I was getting some conflicting notes. I was trying to do some research on what religion was being represented. And I saw a lot to do with Zen Buddhism. And in fact, I think that's probably correct because Mei even says be Zen.
Yeah.
And that's how she kind of controls the panda. However, the chanting in the ritual, they did say in an interview that they kind of were basing it off of Taoist chants. So I thought that was interesting. I'd throw that in there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do enough. I couldn't do enough research to find out for sure what is being represented here, but definitely some ancestor worship. And for some reason, people are really upset about that. And
I guess,
God,
it's just dumb.
It's just, come on, guys. We live in a country with a freedom of religion.
Yeah.
I understand that a majority of you out there who are listening, in our country anyways, probably did grow up in a Christian home.
Right.
But there's so many other homes in our country.
And a lot of them are far more...
just get over it.
Yeah, they're far more fascinating, far more logical in areas. Like, sorry, I don't want to insult Christianity, so that seems very rude to say. But, like, there's logic to all of them. And it's beautiful to, like, explore other religions and see what their beliefs are. You know, like... Like when I started reading about Buddhism, it was very eye-opening. Like you might learn a lot more about yourself if you open yourself to these other ideas. And also, this is only the second Pixar film to have a lead Asian character. The first one being Up. Like,
yeah, and I guess Raya was
Disney,
not a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Well. Anyhow, I did want to just talk about that a little bit, that I think people need to get over themselves. This is a great movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 5.5. I mean, it's hard not to give it that because I don't typically watch a movie twice within a couple of weeks.
Right.
So
right.
I'm going to give it that 5.5. I really enjoyed it. And I think if you go through the record of the films we've watched, a lot of the 5.5s probably are going to animated movies.
Yeah, I mean it's easier
it's probably true.
I don't want to say it's easier to please, but at least for us, it's a little easier to please. I think with animated films because like I'm giving this 4 stars. Yeah. Like it's a very fun ride. It's very enjoyable. Like I don't relate as a young woman coming to womanhood but that didn't stop me from having full-on entertainment and, like, just fucking loving the characters. Like, it only took 30 minutes for me to consider May one of the, like, my favorite freaking characters to come out of an animation. Like, in only 30 minutes. She's amazing. I love May.
She's great. And I feel like, if anything, this being a movie, a woman-centric movie, and I still feel like it does not exclude me from being entertained by it, for one, like you said. But two, if anything, it just gives me more empathy for women. Yeah. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go watch the movie.
More empathy, more perspective, like... And like, okay, they also, we didn't talk about them too much, but for the it's not the trial. What's the word I'm looking for? Not trial.
The ritual?
Ritual, thank you. Yeah, for the ritual, they bring in her aunts and her grandmother.
And their grandmother. I do love the aunts.
Oh, they're all, again, just like everybody else in this movie. They are all their own personality, and they are all fucking wonderful. Like, it's great.
Yeah, when they walk in and they do the shot on the shoes. Honestly, the cinematography in this movie is great. Yeah, there was this one scene with the light where the mother was yelling at the three friends. Yeah. And they're in the spotlight of the car. It's fucking great.
Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice. And you also get a little bit of, like, the age-old story of, you know, how your parents raised you, how you raise your parents, or how you raise your kids. You know, it's that direct line. You see how that has affected these different generations of women. And maybe it's a predictable and age-old tale, but at the same time, it's fucking wonderful. So
yeah, it is.
Check out all three of these movies, but I say Turning Red wins. That is my victory.
I agree. I think we will see it brought up again Oscar time. So this time next year, we'll hear about it, I think, again.
And when we do our Pixar playlist.
I'm sure that will happen. It's a good movie. I also am going to give it to it, but I think I'm going to give On the Basis of Sex movie the second place. I know that we don't usually do that, but Suffragette, like you said, go watch that movie. Yeah. It has important information for you. It's not, like we said earlier, exactly historical, but the things that happen in that movie happen to women, and you should know about it.
Yeah, for real. And yeah, I wouldn't award a second or third place. I will just say both of those films are pretty fairly tied for me.
Fair.
Both very interesting and very entertaining films, but, you know, not like top tier. Like, don't go in thinking you're gonna see like the greatest film ever. Just go in for the the message and for the story, because it's important.
Amen.
I think that's been the episode. Thank you to all the women out there for everything that you do. You do so much.
Yes.
And we love you all. I have been the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
A woman. And I have been the Faceless Leon. Thanks for listening. Safe travels, and good night. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of Fiction Works 19. If you like the show, please show your support by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might listen. We also now have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to support us in a financial manner, please become a patron by visiting patreon.com/greenandfaceless. You can also find more information about us on our Facebook account or on the Fiction Works 19 Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening.